So I wanted to touch on a topic, which is how do you deal with a narcissist when no contact is not an option, and you don't want to fall into their manipulative ways and their manipulative games, and you also don't want to be um, seen as a target for good supply from their perspective. So there's several things that you can do to make yourself a less appealing target to the narcissist and to keep more control over yourself when you have to coexist with them and you can't go no contact. And the first point that I want to mention is, as a general point, it's it's important to tone yourself down when you're in the presence of the narcissist. And what I mean by that is, if you're like an extremely cheerful person by nature, and if you have that energy where you're constantly trying to uplift people, kind of giving your energy away for free, you really need to tone that aspect of yourself down when the narcissist is in your vicinity. And it's also important to learn just not to give your energy away indiscriminately. Because if you just kind of give yourself away like that indiscriminately, some people will see that as an invitation to come and basically take advantage of you. The second thing that I want to touch on is it's important not to be a people pleaser. You shouldn't have overly people pleasing personalities. Of course, it's important to please yourself and want the best for the people around you, to get on with people, to be a decent human being around people, work hard, do all that kind of stuff. But if you have a people pleasing tendency, in a sense where you're kind of overcompensating for something, maybe insecurities or you're seeking validation. When you have people pleasing tendencies in that way, where it's linked to some form of overcompensation for things like trying to seek out validation or insecurities, then the narcissist will use that against you. They will find a way to hook you in by leveraging your own tendencies against you. So if it does resonate with you that maybe you do have pleasing tendencies, and maybe that's a result of your desire or need to seek out external validation or insecurities of sorts, then that's definitely something to work on. The third thing I wanted to touch on is just generally maintaining healthy personal boundaries. If someone is regularly breaching your personal boundaries, then that's definitely a red flag. And you should try to keep a safe distance from that person, if not physically, at least emotionally and energetically. But if people insist on crossing your boundaries, what they're really trying to do is they're trying to get some form of reaction out of you, whether it's a positive reaction or a negative reaction. They're trying to get some form of reaction out of you. So what I would suggest in that case is just kind of be a bit diffident, play it a bit aloof. Just don't give them the feedback they're after. Maybe give them very short responses or kind of pretend you didn't hear them. Just kind of be neutral, aloof. And if you do that, if you're not giving immediate and strong feedback to what's being placed your way, then you're not really giving out the supply that the person's after. And if you don't give them that kind of space into you, then they really can't manipulate you in the way they would like, and they just won't find you interesting. And the last thing I wanted to touch on is just, again, this is quite general, but practice avoidance and ignoring. When you find yourself dealing with a lot of toxic people in your life, you soon realize that if you want to be healthy yourself, be mentally healthy, you have to learn to avoid and ignore people and be okay with it. And it's not always easy to do if you've been an overly attentive person, a people-pleasing person, kind of giving yourself away to the people around you, maybe a bit too much. So practicing avoidance and ignoring can go a long way to kind of put you in that safe zone. So when you're around certain people, you're just kind of tuning out of them. They're looking at you, but they just don't see you as being interesting. You learn how to tone yourself down to the point where you're not really acknowledging them as such. You're not being rude, mean, or any of that. You're just not really acknowledging them, and they just won't feel a connection or a pull towards you. So those are the four things I wanted to mention. So just to reiterate, the first one was to tone yourself down in the presence of narcissists and toxic people. The second one is don't be a people pleaser. The third one was maintaining healthy personal boundaries. And finally, the last one was practicing avoidance and ignoring. And if you can kind of think about those, see which ones are most relevant to you, and if you can kind of practice those in the right way, then you'll be shielding yourself from toxic people quite effectively.